Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Over Tea, Listen and Speak, where we make English simple and enjoyable. I'm Anna.
And I'm Dan. Hello to all of our wonderful listeners, wherever you are in the world right now.
Dan, what are you doing with your face? You look like you are chewing on a giant, invisible piece of gum.
I am warming up, Anna. I'm doing my facial stretches. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. A peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked.
Okay, stop before you hurt yourself. What is going on today?
I am practicing my pronunciation. I read an article yesterday that said speaking a new language is like going to the gym, but for your mouth.
Going to the gym for your mouth? That is a very funny image, but you know what? It is actually completely true. And that is exactly what we are going to talk about today.
Yes, today we are talking about how to literally train your mouth to talk in English. We focus so much on grammar rules and memorizing vocabulary words, but we often forget that speaking is a physical activity.
Exactly. When you learn English, you are forcing the muscles in your mouth, your tongue, your lips, and your jaw to move in entirely new ways they have never moved in your native language.
It is a physical workout. I remember when I first started having long conversations in English. I was maybe 18 and I went to London for a summer language camp.
Ooh, a language camp. That sounds intense.
It was very intense. We had to speak English from morning until night. No native language was allowed at all. And I remember calling my mom after the third day and telling her, "Mom, my face hurts."
Your face hurt? Like you were in physical pain?
Yes, physically. My jaw was tired, my cheeks were tired because I was using mouth muscles that I normally never use. It really was like a heavy workout.
That makes so much sense. Think about it. Every single language has its own unique sounds. If your native language does not have a certain sound, those specific muscles in your mouth are just asleep. They are weak.
And when you try to make those new sounds for the first time, your mouth feels clumsy. You get tongue-tied.
Ooh, tongue-tied. That is a great phrase for our listeners to learn. To be tongue-tied means you cannot express yourself clearly because you're nervous or because the words just will not come out right. Your tongue literally feels like it is tied in a knot.
Yes. Have you ever been tongue-tied while trying to learn a new sound, Anna?
Oh, absolutely. When I was younger, the classic English TH sound was my biggest enemy. Words like the, think, through.
The TH sound is famously difficult for English learners all over the world.
It is. In my native language, we never stick our tongues between our teeth to make sounds. That felt so unnatural to me. It almost felt rude.
It does feel a bit like you are sticking your tongue out at someone.
Exactly. So for the longest time, I would say sink instead of think or zat instead of that. I was trying to use the mouth muscles I already knew instead of training the new ones.
And how did you fix it? How did you finally train your mouth?
Honestly, by looking in the mirror. I locked myself in the bathroom, stood in front of the mirror, and just watched my mouth. I would say, think.
That's actually a fantastic technique. Watching yourself helps you see if your tongue is in the right position. If you cannot see your tongue between your teeth, you aren't making the TH sound correctly.
Exactly. And I had to exaggerate the movement at first.
Exaggerate. Let's explain that word for our listeners.
To exaggerate means to make something bigger or more noticeable than it normally is. So I would stick my tongue out really far, much further than a native English speaker would, just to force my brain to learn the new position.
And what happens when you do that over and over again?
You develop muscle memory.
Another fantastic term, muscle memory. Anna, what is that exactly?
Muscle memory is when your body learns how to do a movement without your brain having to think about it consciously, like riding a bicycle or typing on a keyboard. Once your fingers know where the keys are, your mind doesn't look anymore. Your muscles just remember.
And that is exactly the ultimate goal with speaking English. You want to practice the physical movements of the sounds so much that your mouth just makes them automatically. You want your mouth to have muscle memory for English.
But getting that muscle memory takes time and it takes repetition. It's exactly like lifting weights at the gym. You cannot just lift a heavy weight one time and suddenly be strong. You have to do it 100 times, 1,000 times.
Listeners, this is such an important point. Many of you write to us and say, I know the word, I can read the word, but when I try to say it out loud, it sounds wrong. That is not a failure of your brain or your intelligence. That is just your mouth needing more physical training.
You have the knowledge in your head, but you don't have the muscle memory in your face yet. And that is perfectly normal. It happens to every single person who learns a second language.
So, Anna, we talked about using a mirror to practice individual sounds like the TH sound. But speaking English is not just about single sounds. It is about linking words together. How do we train our mouths for the natural flow of English sentences?
That is the next big step. Once your mouth knows how to make the individual sounds, you have to practice putting them together. And my absolute favorite technique for this is called shadowing.
Shadowing? Like a shadow on the ground when the sun is shining?
Exactly like that. A shadow follows you wherever you go. In language learning, shadowing means listening to a native speaker and repeating what they say immediately after them. You follow their voice like a shadow.
Oh, I have tried this. You listen to a podcast, maybe this podcast right here, and you speak out loud at almost the exact same time as the person you are listening to.
Yes, you do not wait for the sentence to finish. You speak while they are speaking, just half a second behind. It forces your mouth to move at the natural speed and rhythm of English.
It is incredibly difficult at first. I remember trying to shadow an English news reporter once. They spoke so fast, I was just making completely random noises by the end of the sentence.
Yes, news reporters are probably too fast for beginners. You have to start slow. Find audio of someone speaking clearly and at a relaxed pace.
Pace. That is a very useful word for our learners. Pace is the speed at which someone speaks or does an activity. You want to find someone who speaks at a slow and steady pace.
Exactly. And when you shadow them, pay attention to the melody of their voice. English goes up and down. Some words are stressed, which means they are louder and longer, and some words are weak and short. Shadowing trains your mouth to physically feel that rhythm.
It really is like singing along to a song. You don't just learn the lyrics, you learn the melody. Speaking of music and rhythm, earlier in the episode, I was practicing a tongue twister.
Ah, yes. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. That was quite the performance, Dan.
Thank you. Tongue twisters are my secret weapon for mouth training. For our listeners who might not know, a tongue twister is a sentence or phrase that is purposely designed to be very difficult to say quickly.
They usually repeat similar sounds over and over again. They literally twist your tongue into knots.
And they're not just for children. Actors use them, news reporters use them, and language learners should definitely use them. They are the ultimate gym workout for your face muscles.
They really are, because they force you to articulate very clearly. To articulate means to pronounce your words clearly and distinctly. If you don't articulate every single sound in a tongue twister, the whole sentence falls apart.
Let's give our listeners a classic example to practice at home. One of the most famous English tongue twisters is about a girl selling shells at the beach.
Oh, I know this one. She sells seashells by the seashore.
Yes, it mixes the SH sound, like in she, with the S sound, like in sells. For many learners, switching quickly between SH and S is a nightmare because the mouth placement is so close but slightly different.
Let me try it slowly. She sells seashells by the seashore. Okay, that wasn't too bad.
Now try it fast, 3 times in a row.
Oh no. Okay. She sells seashells by the seashore. She sells seashells by the seashore. She sells. Oh no, I messed it up completely.
See, it completely breaks your brain and your mouth, but that is the exact point of the exercise. When you force your mouth to try these extreme gymnastics, normal everyday English sentences suddenly feel so much easier to pronounce.
It is exactly like training with heavy weights. Once you put the heavy weights down, lifting a regular box feels incredibly light.
But Dan, I think we need to talk about a very common mistake people make when they try to improve their speaking skills.
What's that?
They try to speak too fast. So many learners think that fluency means speaking English at 100 miles per hour.
Oh, absolutely. They watch action movies or talk shows and see native speakers talking incredibly fast, and they think, I need to sound exactly like that to be good at English.
But when you are still training your mouth muscles, speaking fast is the worst thing you can do. If you speak too fast, your mouth will automatically take shortcuts. It will skip the difficult sounds, and your pronunciation will become messy and impossible to understand.
It is so true. Clarity is always more important than speed. It's much better to speak slowly and articulate every word beautifully than to speak fast and have no one understand you.
When you speak slowly, you give your brain the time it needs to tell your mouth muscles exactly what to do. You are building that muscle memory we talked about correctly. If you build muscle memory while making mistakes, it is very hard to fix later.
Slow and steady wins the race. I always tell my students, slow down, open your mouth wider than you think you need to, and give every word the space it deserves. Your mouth muscles need that deliberate practice to grow stronger. We have talked about mirrors, shadowing, and tongue twisters, but there is one more physical aspect of training your mouth that most people overlook entirely, and that is breathing.
Breathing? You mean I've been doing it wrong for 30 years? I thought breathing was the one thing I was actually good at.
Well, you are clearly good at staying alive, Dan, but English has a very specific way of using air. It is what we call a stress-timed language. This means the rhythm of the language depends on how we push air out of our lungs on certain syllables.
That is a great point. Some languages are syllable timed, where every beat is the same length, like a steady drum. But English is more like a heartbeat. Da-dum, da-dum, da-dum.
Exactly. And to get that dum sound, that stressed syllable, you need a little burst of air. If you hold your breath or breathe too shallowly, your English will sound very flat, and your mouth muscles won't have the fuel they need to make the sounds correctly.
So how can our listeners practice this? Do they need to do yoga while speaking?
You don't need a yoga mat, but you do need to relax your shoulders and breathe from your diaphragm, your stomach area, rather than just your chest. When you have a good supply of air, it's much easier to train your mouth to hit those high and low notes of English speech.
I find that singing in English is a wonderful way to practice this. When you sing, you are forced to manage your breath to finish the phrase. Plus, it's much more fun than just repeating word lists.
Singing is a brilliant tip. It also helps with linking, which is when the end of one word slides into the beginning of the next. For example, in the phrase pick it up, a native speaker doesn't stop between the words. It sounds like one long word. Pick it up.
Pick it up. My mouth feels like it's dancing when I say it like that.
It is a dance. And just like dancing, you might step on your own toes at first. You might stumble. You might feel silly.
Feeling silly is the biggest barrier for most learners. I have many students who are so afraid of looking foolish or making a weird face that they keep their mouths almost closed when they speak.
And that is the worst thing you can do for your pronunciation. If you don't move your lips and jaw, the sounds cannot escape. They get trapped behind your teeth, and everything sounds like a mumble.
Listeners, we want to give you permission right now. Be loud, be silly, and move your face. If you're practicing at home, don't be afraid to look ridiculous. Stick that tongue out for the TH. Round your lips into a big circle for the W, and let your jaw drop for those wide vowel sounds.
I always tell my students, if your face doesn't feel a little bit tired after 30 minutes of speaking practice, you probably aren't moving your muscles enough.
It's a workout. No pain, no gain, right?
Exactly. But let's keep it fun. You don't need to practice for hours. 10 minutes of mouth gym every day is much better than 2 hours once a week. Consistency is the key to building that muscle memory.
So to summarize our workout plan for today, use a mirror to check your tongue and lip positions. Use shadowing to follow the rhythm of native speakers. Challenge yourself with tongue twisters, and remember to breathe and move your face.
And most importantly, be patient with yourself. Your mouth muscles have spent years, maybe decades, speaking your native language. They are very strong in those movements. It takes time to teach them a new dance.
I think I'm going to go back to my Peter Piper tongue twisters now. I feel inspired to get my mouth muscles in top shape.
Just don't pull a muscle, Dan.
I'll try my best. It has been so much fun talking about the physical side of English today. It's a perspective we don't often hear about, but it makes such a difference.
It really does. Once you realize it's a physical skill, the pressure to be perfect in your head goes away, and you can just focus on the training.
Well said, Anna. I'm ready for my next session at the mouth gym.
Me too. Let's keep those muscles moving.
All right, everyone. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation, and we hope it brought back some memories of your first job, the good, the bad, and the embarrassing.
If you liked this episode, please subscribe to English Over Tea, Listen and Speak, and give us a like. It really helps us make more episodes for you. And share this with a friend who is learning English.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. Keep practicing, keep learning, and remember, every job teaches you something. Even the ones with bad uniforms, especially the ones with bad uniforms. Stay wonderful, everyone. We will see you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.